Hello everybody, it's Tarun. Welcome to your 10th tutorial in basic Python course. In this tutorial I'll be teaching you about iterables, okay, and iterables contain variables and loops, okay. So I'll start by revising you about something about variables, okay, and in this I'll talk about updating variables. So whenever you assign any variable, okay, so you assign it by, say, x equals to 2. You have assigned a variable, okay, but what if when you want to update it, you type x equals to x plus 1, okay, so you have updated the x variable, but if you try to update a variable that does not exist, you get an error, because Python evaluates the right side before it assigns a value to x. So let's say y is a variable which I have declared it, and y equals to y plus 1. So you can see that it shows name error, y is not defined, okay. So before you can update a variable, keep in mind that you have to initialize it, usually with a simple assignment like this, okay, and then updating a variable is done by this. If you add something, then it is increment, and if you subtract something, then it is called decrement, okay. Moving forward, let's talk about the while statement or while loop, okay. Computers are often used to automate repetitive tasks, okay. Repeating identical or similar tasks without making error is something that computers do well and people do not. Because iteration is so common, Python provides several language features to make it easier. One of them is while. So here is a simple program that counts down from 5 and then says blast off, okay. So let me show you. Let's say make a script file, okay. So n equals to 5 while n greater than 0. Print n equals to n minus 1, and okay, so now if let me save it first. Okay, and then now let's run it. So it counts from 5 to 1 and then prints blast off, okay. You can almost read the while statement as if it is for English, okay. It means while n greater than 0, display the value of n and then reduce the value of n by 1, okay. When you get to 0, exit the while statement and print the statement blast off, okay. So more formally, here is the flow of execution, okay, for a while statement. Evaluate the condition, this one, okay, while n greater than 0, it will yield true or false. If the condition is false, exit the while statement and continue execution at the next statement, okay. The loop is only till here because this part of this while statement is indented and it is in the body. So if the condition is true, execute the body and then go back to step 1, okay. Here the step 1 is this. So each time this type of flow is called a loop because the third step, okay, this step loops back around to the top, this step, and each time we execute the body of the loop, we call it an iteration. So for the above loop, we would say it had 5 iterations, which means that the body of the loop was executed 5 times. So the body of the loop should change the value of one or more variables so that eventually the condition becomes false and loop terminates. We call the variable that changes each time the loop executes and controls when the loop finishes the iteration variable. So if there is no iteration variable, the loop will repeat forever, resulting in an infinite loop. So what I said that you have to use such a condition here that it will eventually become false at some point of time, and if it does not become false at some point of time, then it will make an infinite loop. So the variable on which we check the condition to become false is called iteration variable. Okay, so this was while loop. So now let's talk about infinite loops and a statement called break. So sometimes you don't know that it's time to end a loop until you get halfway through the body. In that case, you can write an infinite loop on purpose and then use the break statement to jump out of the loop. So by this you would have understood the meaning of break, that whenever we want to get out of the loop in the middle of the body of executing the body of the loop, we can get out with the help of break statement. So let me show you with another example. Say n equals to 10 while true print n So this is our infinite loop. So let me run it. So you can see that it is going down, going down, going down. Okay, if you make the mistake and run this code, you will learn quickly how to stop a runaway Python process on your system, or find where the power of button is on your computer. Okay, this program will run forever or until your battery runs out, because the logical expression at the top of the loop is always true by virtue of the fact that the expression is the constant value true. So you have used true over here. Okay, it will always be true. So this will never stop. So if you make such a mistake to stop a Python program from running, then press the keys Ctrl plus C. It will stop the program immediately. So let's make the example a better one. Okay. So let's make some changes. Say line equals to input okay, and if line equals to done. And break. So the loop condition is true, which is always true. So the loop runs repeatedly until it hits the break statement. So let's run it. Each time through it prompts the user with an angular bracket like this. So if the user types done, the break statement exits the loop, otherwise the program goes on whatever the user types. Say let's see, hello there, and it has again printed out the angular bracket. Say finished, it has again printed out the angular bracket. Now what if I type done? So you can see that it has printed out the last statement, okay, this last statement, and took us back to the interpreter. So this way of writing while loops is common because you can check the condition anywhere in the loop, not just at the top. So you can express the stop condition uh, whenever you want or whenever this happens, until rather than keep going until that happens. Okay. So the next thing which I want to teach you is finishing iterations with continue. Sometimes you are in an iteration of a loop and want to finish the current iteration and immediately jump to the next iteration. In that case, you can use the continue statement to skip to the next iteration without finishing the body of the loop for the current iteration. So here is an example which I am going to show you for the continue statement. Say while true I equals to input if line 0. So now that is the continuous statement. So what I have done. So the while statement has having true as its condition. It will always be true. I am taking input from the user. So I am checking if the first character of the string or the input which is user giving is hash, then it will continue and continue to this statement and leaving this statements without executing. So this is the same as we did in the last part. So let's run it and see what happens. So let me type again. Hello there. So if I type any statement starting with hash, won't print it, so it does not print it but it shows the angular bracket to get the input. So now if I type, it prints this. So what now if I type down, it breaks out from the loop. So all the lines are printed except the one that starts with a hash sign, because when the continue is executed, it ends the current iteration and jumps back to the while statement to start the next iteration. Thus, we are skipping the print statement. So now we are going to create definite loops using for statement. Sometimes we want to loop through a set of things such as list of words, a line in a file, or a list of numbers. When we have a list of things to loop through, we can construct a definite loop using a for statement. We can call the while statement an indefinite loop because it simply loops until some condition becomes false, whereas the for loop is looping through a known set of items, so it runs through as many iterations as there are in items in the set. So the syntax of the for loop is similar to the while loop, and in that there is a for statement and a loop body. So let's create a for loop. Let me make a list first, sequence or a list, you can say anything, containing friends. Okay, now for Okay, so let's run this program. So you can see that my sequence has 3 elements: Joseph, Glenn and Sally. So it has typed hello Joseph, hello Glenn and hello Sally, and then done. So in Python terms, the variable, okay, friends is a list of 3 strings, and the for loop goes through the list and executes the body once for each of the 3 strings and results the output. Okay, so translating this for loop to English is not as direct as was in the case of while statement, but if you think of friends as a sequence, it goes like this: run the statements in the body of the for loop once for each friend in the sequence named friends. So when you look at for loop, this for word and in, these are keywords which are reserved Python words, and friend and friends are variables. So in particular, friend is the iteration variable for the for loop. The variable friend changes for each iteration of the loop and controls when the for loop completes. The iteration variable steps successively through the 3 strings stored in the friends variable. So what I mean to say is that if it had 4 elements inside the sequence friends, then it would have run 4 times and print out all the 4 elements with the hello preceding the it, and then print it done. So there are some loop patterns which you need to keep in mind to make your programming efficient and simple. So often we use a for or a while loop to go through a list of items or the contents of a file, and we are looking for something such as the largest or smallest value of data we can scan through. So this is an example. So these loops are generally constructed by first initializing one or more variables before the loop start. So you can see in this, this is one variable which was declared or initialized before the starting of the loop. In the while statement, n was there, which was declared before the starting of the loop. Performing some computation on each item in the loop body, possibly changing the variables in the body of the loop. So this was the computation which was done on the variable friend. Okay, and then looking at the resulting variables when the loop completes. So I will show you some of the example of loops, okay, which will include counting and summing loop and maximum and minimum loop. Okay, so for example, to count the items in a list, we could write the following for loop. Say count equals to 0 for I n okay. So in this loop you will be thinking that what I have done here. So I was incrementing the value of count by 1 for each element which I will count. So you can do it by 2 ways. Either you can type count plus equals to 1 or count equals to count plus 1. So now when I run this program, okay, you can see that count is 6. So let's check whether it is correct or not. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can see that the sequence had 6 elements and it printed out the correct output for us. So we set the variable count to 0 before the loop started, and then we write a for loop to run through the list of numbers. Our iteration variable is named I, and while we do not use I in the loop, it does control the loop and cause the loop body to be executed once for each value in the list. In the body of the loop, we add 1 to the current value of count for each of the value in the list. While the loop is executing, the value of count is the number of values we have seen so far. So once the loop completes, the value of count is the total number of items, and the total number comes to us at the end of the loop. Okay, another similar loop is that which computes the total of a set of numbers. So how to do that? So let's change some variable names. First we define total equals to 0, then total equals to total plus I. So let's run it. Okay, you can see that the total is 5102. In this loop we do use the iteration variable in the body. Instead of simply adding 1 to the count as in the previous loop, we add the actual number, okay, 1, 2, 4, 56, etc. to the running total during each loop iteration. So if you think about the variable total, it contains the running total of the values so far. So before the loop starts, total is 0 because we have not yet seen any values. During the loop, total is the running total, and at the end of the loop, total is the overall total of the values in the list. So as the loop executes, total accumulates the sum of the elements. A variable used this way is sometimes called an accumulator. Okay, so let's talk about the maximum and minimum loops now. To find the largest value in a list or sequence, we construct the following loop. Largest equals to none. For I in the say any sequence, okay, if largest is none or I is greater than largest. So let's run it. I'll understand this. I'll make you understand this by explaining. So you can see that the variable largest is best thought of the largest value we have seen so far. So before the loop we set, okay, just wait. So before the loop we have set the value of largest to none. Okay, and none is a special constant value which we can store in a variable to mark the variable as empty. So before the loop start, the largest value we have seen so far is none. Since we have not seen any values while the loop is executing, if the largest is none, okay, we are checking it here. If largest is none, then we take the first value we see as the largest so far. Okay, if it checks two conditions: if largest is none, or these value is greater than largest, and largest equals to I. So you can see in the first iteration, when the value of I is 5, okay, so it prints loop and I value of I and largest. So you can see that these are increasing values till here, but then it decreases the value. So it types in the same manner till here, okay, but when it goes to this value, so if the largest is none, so it will not check, this will check. If I is this and I is this and largest is this, so it will print out I as 32122 and largest as 64643, and the next statement is the same. So when the loop executed from the last element, so the largest value stored was this one, so it prints out the largest value as this. So this was the example for largest statement, largest value in any sequence or list. Similarly, you can make any program for say minimum for smallest number in any list. Okay, you can check this program, you can check it by using max and min function which are built in Python. So let me check it for you. So you can see that it is correct, our program worked correctly. So you can see that this was quite interesting thing about looping. Okay, so this was all about loops and iteration from my side in this tutorial. Okay, in the next tutorial we'll talk about defining functions, okay, and how to use functions in our program. So this was all from my side on this tutorial. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next tutorial.